All right, so successful online students work well with others, and all right, as you can tell, we're going to go through a bunch of these different tips that I've categorized, and we'll go through them one at a time and see what we can come up with. All right, successful online students work well with others. Okay, so obviously we've got the stigma that, you know, online students kind of want to be by themselves. That's why they're online students. However, you know, it's definitely not true for probably 99% of the individuals that are online students, especially at the graduate level. This one is your faculty member of the particular course that you are in. Interact with online professors can be daunting, early and often. So what am I saying about this is that you want to make, your faculty member is going to make contact with you, you know, when you first start your course. They're going to say who they are, they're going to give you a syllabus, things like that. And it's always beneficial to the students, you know, to somehow become known in this, you know, kind of hidden background of the online world. And so, you know, how you get known at the beginning, you know, a quick way is to simply, you know, email the faculty. He or she is going to give you their contact information, and then you just say, hey, I'm so and so. You know, I'm going to introduce myself in the discussion board, but I'm, you know, checking my emails, making sure that the link, that, you know, the email address is fine. It's good to meet you. You know, you can say whatever you want, but, you know, an email before it's called for is usually a good way of, you know, getting faculty's attention. And again, from what I've, you know, learned about online students, you know, being one myself a few years ago, is that, you know, sometimes we disappear out there, and, you know, it's way harder to disappear if you're making a proactive effort, you know, with communicating with the people involved, especially faculty. You need to talk to faculty as much as you would normally in any other circumstance. You need to contact faculty when you don't understand the assignment, when you need help with something, and, you know, obviously there's a line between, you know, being invisible and being completely there all the time. You know, the more, the better. And if you're worried about too much, then you kind of need to worry about, you know, the content of your contacts. I want to go on to the advisor that you all have. I know you have two, and depending on your program, I know you guys have an academic advisor, and this is the, you know, I call this one the long-term connection, because your faculty member you may only have for 12 weeks, 16 weeks, and that's about it. Whereas your academic advisor, if you're an MPH or in EDU or social work, this is the faculty member who is not teaching you, but is actually your advisor. They may teach you eventually, or they may be teaching you currently, but this is your academic advisor, and this is a person that you want to keep in contact with. Employees of UNE, it's supposed to be innate in us, you know, to reach out and assist you, but it's always great, you know, for the students as well to be proactive in that area. And, you know, I've spoken to a few advisors, and they work hard to contact their students, and, you know, sometimes it's on the students that, you know, maybe they won't return emails, or maybe they're not keeping as much, you know, as contact as good as they could. And if you don't know who either one of those people are, you know, I would contact someone in your department immediately, okay, and find out the names of both of those. Student assistance, that's where I come in, and my colleagues here at the Student Academic Success Center. And I've got a web page here. Let's see if you guys will actually get this. But this is one thing, you know, in terms of a successful online student with your stay at UNE, is having access to this. I mean, this is huge for writing support, receiving assistance for, you know, for some sort of tutoring needs you may have. You know, writing assistance is a big one, but there's just a lot of stuff that we have here in terms of resources that are available to you guys. So I think you have this link from last week. And, but you can tell we've got a calendar, and this is where we are tonight. We're on the 21st. It's a, you know, great resource. So that in student assistance, you know, they work well with others. That means you're going to be working, you know, if you need something, you're going to be contacting me. If you're, you know, I can help you with learning styles. I can help you, you know, with writing support. We've got professional writing tutors. So obviously, you know, communicating with us is going to be a benefit to you. You're going to be working, or you are working, with other students, and you're in Oregon, and they're, you know, at 3 other different places. So there's a group of 4. You know, what invariably happens is the faculty member signs you up, puts you into a group of 4 or 5, and then he or she will tell you, you know, contact the individual, find out your work schedule, and do the project. It's a little bit different, but when you're online, just to to give you guys some ideas, with your group, or some hints I'll give you is to contact all of the members as soon as you can. Give them your contact information. And again, this is your own personal preference, but I'll tell you with what I've seen in the past, good groups, the students are sharing their phone numbers, they're talking to each other often, they're not just waiting for these back and forth emails or they're sharing they're sharing texts, they're sharing phone calls, a little bit of live contact, and with that, the more you're in contact with your group, the more ownership you are going to have, as a part of it, and your group itself will probably do a little bit better if you guys have a bit of a relationship going. You definitely want people to know, where you are, how to reach you, and let them know, that you're here, you're going to help, you want to know. I'm not saying necessarily take a leadership role, because that definitely varies on the assignment or what your leadership style is, but you need to be a very proactive individual in terms of being a part of it and respond to emails immediately, return the phone calls, because there are definitely some dysfunctional groups, and we can't say that's unique to the online atmosphere, because it's definitely in the real world as well. But just communication with the group is the big one. So our first kind of little habit or characteristic of a successful online student is they work well with others. So don't isolate yourself, and just don't isolate yourself. The more isolated you are, the harder it is for people to advocate for what you need, and then think about just as a learner, coming from a learning perspective. I mean, a big goal of yours is to get as much out of this as you can, and an active learner, one who's speaking with people and asking questions and making plans and discussing differences, and these are the individuals who are getting the most out of a out of any kind of course, online or in person. But again, it's a little tougher online, but it's something that can't that shouldn't be forgotten. And we'll talk about this one for a little bit. These students, these successful students, they're going to communicate well through writing. Okay, and I have a handout I'd like to share. I think everybody can see that. So I've got a handout here on tips for communicating effectively online, and I don't want to go through it word for word, but it's a good outline for for some things to talk about. It is big for online students. Obviously, it's one of the largest ways of communicating that the way you can demonstrate that you know what you're doing. It's the way to communicate. It's almost everything online. And we'll get to some of the problems, but let's look at these. It's going to enable the writer to reflect on his or her ideas, to think them through thoroughly before presenting them when it's my turn to speak in the classroom, whereas, in this kind of environment, except for right now where we're all actually together, you have a lot of time to process, what you read and how you're going to respond to it. You must be reasonably skilled and comfortable expressing yourself in writing, okay? And in many courses, it's not usually a problem. If you feel comfortable with the faculty and you start feeling comfortable, with your peers, especially when you've had several classes together, it's going to become much easier. But just like that first day in a new class and a new program, there's the shyness, and there's, it gets better. And again, the more you do it, the better it is. Good online writing. So here's a few tips I've got for good online writing, and these are pretty specific. Okay, be short, concise, and organized. Avoid long, rambling, or confusing messages. You got to be short, quick, because just think about what you read online, and what are you more likely to look at a little bit longer? What are you more likely to pass by? Take time to edit your message if at all possible. Now, usually it is possible. I think we talked about that, but I would say, if you're not going to take the time to edit your emails, if you're not obviously going to take time to edit your discussion boards, then you're definitely going to be at a disadvantage from your peers who are definitely going to be doing that. This is what I suggest students, and I should have just a section on discussion boards, but I like to touch on it more here and there. But when I talk to students that are having trouble with the discussion board, it's compose your message in a Word doc. Keep it completely separate. You definitely hear faculty all the time, being concise. And concise is a great word. It doesn't necessarily mean short. Concise means It means short and to the point. It means it's very clear what you're trying to say. And if you can be a concise writer, you are a great online student. Okay, so, you know, and that's a skill that needs to be developed. Neatness, proper grammar, and spelling do matter. Although as readers, you should also make allowances for others' typing skills. So I guess, you know, most of you are part of an online world present somehow, so you're learning the culture's evolving, you know, what is appropriate, what is not. And I'd say, you know, when in doubt, do it the right way. I mean, if you're in a chat room or in a chat box or you're talking in your group and you guys are going back and forth, you know, you don't need capital letters, you don't need stuff like that. However, you know, I say every email, every discussion board response out there, you want to make people know that you're there, and you want to use that with, you know, good ideas, good responses, being courteous to everybody. You know, don't, you know, never correct somebody's writing or never correct, you know, somebody's answer unless you're working in a group open. But, you know, if people are going to see your post to somebody else's post, you definitely want to be very, very careful if you're going to, you know, offer some sort of, you know, differing opinion on the answer, which is, you know, it's definitely good about learning too, is you just got to be a little more careful. And yeah, I like this right here. You know, we have no body language, we have no voice intonations. You know, we don't have that kind of stuff, you know, when we're communicating online. So you got to be careful with what you're writing. And you know, sarcasm, you know, is a tough one. Again, the more people know you, you know, the more likely you can get away with it. But if people don't know you, they're going to be thrown for a loop. Because think of the 36 people in this room. We're from, you know, different cultural backgrounds. We're from different countries. We're from different socioeconomic statuses. You know, different professional areas, and these are your colleagues, you know, in a program like this. So, I mean, it's really easy to not necessarily to offend somebody, but to upset somebody with, you know, with what you're saying. And so again, be cautious. You know, these are just some ideas, you know, for, you know, how to speak to somebody. Agree or disagree with another message. I disagree that learning, you know, I wouldn't say this is too good. I disagree that online learning takes more time. I like this one, obviously, because you're agreeing. I understand what you're saying, but I disagree. What I would do even there, if this is, you know, your first response to somebody, I'd say, you know, I'd point out a couple of things that you agree with, and then find the point that you disagree with and stick that in. I would say that this is kind of undergrad world, too, where you keep saying, I like what you said, or this is nice. You're really not going to say stuff like that at your level. You know, you're not going to say a lot of, I really like how you responded. You may say you approve of the response, but again, at a graduate level with your writing, you're going to be saying why. Okay, that's what you're focusing on. You know, what are the parts that you liked? Why did you like them? What can you connect your learning to their response? How can you connect what the faculty is speaking to, you know, to your response? That's what you want to do. The writing process. Again, if you're uncomfortable with the writing process, you know, we've got to fix that. All right, and when I talk about the writing process, let's focus on two things here. Would be, you know, the research. The first one would be research, and I've got a contact for you right here. This is Elizabeth Dyer. She's our research online. She's our research librarian that focuses on online students. So she will show you, you know, she'll walk you through those, or she'll give you some videos to watch, you know, on how to use the various search engines. But she'll also walk you through them. She'll help you with the citation. She'll help you with the source. Okay, that's a great contact for you guys to have your time here. And then for writing, okay, this is Brenda Edmond. She's our tutor coordinator. She's a professional writing tutor as well as she has others. Okay, and I can help you with that as well. You're gonna use the best. Err on the side. Okay, know your formatting requirements. And this is how, you know, you guys came to the workshop last week. You guys have a recording of that workshop. You guys have that web page I gave to you. You need to know what your formatting looks like in terms of APA formatting or AMA formatting, how to do it, okay? And then finally, an effective online student may not start off as the best writer, but think about it, sitting in a program for 2 years, 3 years, where 97% of your responses are through in written form. Think what your writing is going to look like in a couple of years. Okay, so get the help to make it better. And, you know, unlike this rambling presentation, the key I can give you is clear and concise. Okay, make things short, but make them easily understood and make them on point. But about that workspace and distractions, and for everyone, we can go through this one pretty quickly, and then just what I see today with students that, that are having a difficult time, or students that are doing really, really well. And I'll say they're disciplined with their computers. Okay, now what does that mean? All right, let's see what I can show you here. All right, so think about your computer here. You've got multiple devices, you've got your programs, you've got your browser tabs, and these are great things. These are a ton of things, but they turn out, they can turn out to be real distractions if they're not used, in a disciplined manner. So what I'm saying here is, let's say you're right now, you're sitting, you're listening to this, this is something that's very important to you. However, you also have another web page going on. You've got a game going on, and you're looking at a score on another window. You've got your phone right in your lap if it's not in your hand right now. And I'll give you guys the skinny on multitasking is that the studies are showing we are not good multitaskers. Studies on multitasking, it's pretty interesting in terms of what we cannot do. Real simple basic tasks, try to do two at once. But what I'm trying to say is, if I've got your attention right now, you're going to process what I'm telling you. If you've got something else going on right now, it's exactly what I've become. I'll become background. And when you're watching a video that your faculty member has shown you, that's what you want to be doing. You want to be taking notes on that video. You do not want to have another window open. It's just not a good use of time. So, quick hints. I think you guys understand this. But again, it's how to be disciplined. Because I think everyone understands this. Everyone probably agrees with this, but yet nobody, does it. And it's a tough one. Only windows or tabs appropriate to the current task should be open. Facebook, emails, eBay are too inviting to pull our attention. So what I'm saying, one more thing I'll say about that too is, an example of what windows or tabs you should have open. You've got your Blackboard, you've got your search engine, and then in your search engine, are you using EBSCOhost or whatever the library, search engine is available for whatever you're searching. And then you've got the article that you're actually reading on your research, and then you've got your Microsoft Word doc open. And even that can get crazy, but that's all one task. So go ahead and throw in some people's emails in there. Go ahead and throw some work in there from real work. Go and throw in some other things. You're doomed. Okay. Put the phone out of reach. The phone has become the master of distraction. It's absolutely true, and I think we all agree to that. And then the computer itself can actually become a distraction. Sometimes you open up a Word doc and you want to play with the settings for just too much stuff can happen. Adobe will pop up and it'll want you to update it. How much time are you going to spend on updating, or setting your preferences for? But it's a big one, and I'll be honest, successful students, they'll sit there and their workspaces are exactly that, their workspaces. Advice I can give students on time management is don't procrastinate. If you're, the person who just always seems to be doing things late, just like you're the person that seems to always have the phone in your lap, you've got to become more disciplined to start earlier, okay? Because in online learning, they'll say everything's due Sunday night at midnight or Tuesday night at midnight, whatever they say. That's when all your assignments are due. However, if you haven't opened up Blackboard and you haven't read anybody's discussion responses, until Saturday, you've got 47 responses to a certain question, and you're going to pop yours in on Saturday night or Sunday morning. It doesn't look good. You're going to be the one, who posts a response that nobody's ever going to respond to because nobody's even looking at that part of the Blackboard section anymore. You've got to be disciplined because the stuff actually disappears, and you actually become, a non-factor in the course. And you, like I said earlier with communication, you want to be a factor, okay? You want to be an aggressive learner. So I want to touch on backward planning. This might be a new thing to everybody, and I have what's called a completion plan. What I do is I'll offer, a completion plan for these individuals. They'll come to me and they'll say, I'm getting a C on every paper I turn in. Then we'll talk about how much time did you spend research, when did you start. So then we'll do what's called backward planning. And so let's say, we'll walk through a scenario here. Let's say we have a paper due, all right? It's, obviously you're going to have to research it. You're going to have to organize it. You're going to have to write it. You're going to have to edit it. You're going to have to, use your citations. You're going to have to format the paper properly. These are all the different projects, or these are all the different smaller tasks for your larger tasks. So what you do with backward planning is you have a calendar, and you put the date, you start with the date that the assignment's due, and then you've got your brainstorm list of all the activities that you need to do, and then you can even break those up. I mean, you can say research, but then you can break up research to online research engine. I have to call Elizabeth Dyer because I'm having a hard time. You know, these are just, you know, some things on your list. So you're brainstorming a big, giant list of little items that you can take to do your planning, and then you're going to date all of those. You know, obviously contacting the research librarian is going to be on one of the early dates. You know what I'm saying? And you can actually do this, and it's something it's worked for a lot of students, and it has become a tool for a couple of students I've worked with. You know, that they're going to use for a lot of their assignments. Common results of the procrastinator. If you guys have any questions on that backward planning, or again, you can Google that, look up other people's designs on backward planning, and it's become a great thing. So common results of the procrastinator, and this is, you know, real life, true to life stories is what happens. You've got, let's pretend you've got 8 weeks, 12, let's say 8 weeks. I think that's a pretty normal one. And you know everything's due on Sunday at midnight. The procrastinator invariably is going to start reading the readings on Saturday morning because, you know, they have another job, they have children, they have a real life, and, you know, this is kind of an attitude that we all have. However, this is one thing I'll tell you: every single one of those 37 people that we're looking at now, 39 people, your colleagues, have exactly the same life that you have. You know what I'm saying? They've got families, they've got jobs, but they're not starting on Saturday morning. Okay, so again, it's up to you to you know, be what kind of student you want to be in terms of getting the most you can out of it. But again, ultimately, I mean, being disciplined is going to help you, and I think everybody understands that. If the procrastinator, again, they're going to start reading on Saturday for a paper due Sunday night. They're going to read. They're not going to do a good job reading. They're going to the discussion board responses. Nobody's going to look at them. You're not going to get any feedback from faculty because they know exactly what you're doing, and not to punish you, but because they've already moved on to the next discussion board question. And then they've got to research their paper. So now now it's Saturday night, they're researching, and so boom, you know, Saturday night comes, something happens, a storm, power, kid's sick. A successful scenario, as soon as you have the access to that learning module, you've got it open. You've written down, you know, let's say, okay, I don't have a lot of time to work right here. You know, I've got 45 minutes. I've got learning module 6. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to open it up as soon as it's open, you know, Monday morning, Sunday night, whenever, again, depends. You're going to open it up and you're going to look in there and you're going to write down, you know, on your Word doc, you're going to write down all the discussion board questions for this module. And then on your Word doc, you're going to, you know, or maybe on a side piece of paper with your hand, you're going to write, you know, with a pencil, you're going to say, hey, you know, I need to watch these 2 videos. These are going to take an hour each. You know what I'm saying? You're doing a little bit of planning. You're getting it done. And, you know, no, you're not going to have anything, you know, you haven't actually progressed in any way in terms of posting a discussion board or completing an assignment, but what you've done is you've really organized that learning module, and you're actually going to be a little bit more ahead than everybody else. So, successful scenario, you read. You do reading that night. A little bit of the reading. You watch one of the videos. You break it up. You know, too much reading, a little bit of video, a little bit of reading, and then you're ready for that first discussion board. But again, you don't want to be the first person to post in the discussion board because you're nervous. So you wait till there's 2 or 3, which I always say is the best, to be that second or third person to post. Work early. Don't wait. And think about when those distractions do come, because real ones do come. If you've waited too long, you're going to find yourself, you know, in trouble. And these online superstars, somehow they seem to always get a lot of stuff done early. And just think of the quality. All right, your workstation. Again, we've talked about this already, but what does it look like? Successful students' workstations are exactly that. You know, where are you sitting right now? And again, you know, I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but where are you sitting? I mean, is the TV on in the back? Do you have your phone in your lap? However, you know, when you've got, you know, a tough lesson going on or a tough video you're supposed to watch, or you're trying to read, you know, you're trying to read this article that you have to read, or you're on a website, you know, with 27 pages of information you're trying to look at, you've got to have nothing. People in your house need to know, Mama's going to put everyone to bed at 8:30, but from 8:30 to 11, Daddy's got it. If, when Mama puts you to bed, you can't leave the room. Get rid of the phone. Don't even put the phone in your workstation when you're working. I've seen people, again, it depends how disciplined you are, but if you're not, leave it in the car. Set designated study times, places that your house members are aware of. Again, your kids or your roommates, I think mostly your kids, but if you've got, every Tuesday, if the kids know after you go to bed, after they go to bed, you're going to work, that's just something they become a part of. If they know all day Saturday you're working, and, then they know it just becomes a part of your thing. But again, about that, working all day Saturday, you want to, to be a more effective worker, you want to break it up. You want 45 minutes at a time. You want 2 hours at a time. You don't want big, giant, work sessions. Although if that's all you got, that's what you do, okay? But then you break that up. You work for an hour and a half. You run, you jump up and down. You watch 10 minutes of a YouTube video. Then you go back to work. You go put the kids out, or the kids out. You put the dogs out. You do what you need to do to break it up. This is a good one too. Deal with the ultimate distractions in a timely way. So let's say they do come. It does come. You've got the whole time. You've got to be cognizant of. This is your time. You're losing it. You need to fix this quickly. Yeah, email. You can get lost in email. And again, I would suggest the first time you turn on that computer, and I do this at work. Ooh, thanks, Christina. That's a good one. I will tell you guys this: the first thing you do when you turn on that computer, okay, here I am. This is my 9 to 11 work session. I'm going to be on it. Don't turn the computer on and the browser, and the first thing that comes up is your email. Don't open your browser and the first thing you do is try to get music in the background. What you're doing there, is you're getting into that 9 to 11 time. You've got an email. It's now 9:17 by the time you got it, because it is an email. It has to be done, at a point. But I just say, don't even look at that stuff. All right, this is a good one from what we talked about at the beginning. Be open-minded about sharing life, work, and educational experiences as part of the learning process. That's a huge part of online learning. We need to make connections. As higher-level thinkers, we need to be connecting, our job to what we're learning. We need to connect, what we learned in the past to what we're going to learn in the future. These are ways that the information, that it stays in our minds. It's the way, we become better workers. And invariably as well, on that first discussion board in any new class, you have to tell them, all about you. And again, that's a good chance, for you to be kind of, be unique there. Say something interesting about yourself, or comment on somebody else, or, again, make a connection. Someone else works with the same kind of people that you do. And, that it's just, it's pretty natural for a lot of us. Others, it's not. And if it's not natural, to respond to people like that, again, write it on Word, read it out loud, see how awful it sounds, and see how you can make it better. 2, be willing to speak up if problems arise. So speak up. You've got us, you've got your advisors, you've got your faculty, and you've got your colleagues, and that's huge. And that was, one thing again, and I don't know if I spoke to it earlier. I talked to some students, when we go to these workshops and we do these orientations and stuff, and I ask them, what did you do really well? And it's funny. A lot of students will say, I worked really well with other students that I didn't think I was going to do, and I was really scared at the beginning, or I was intimidated at the beginning, But using your colleagues is key. Using the student population. Number 3. You got to feel that high-quality learning can take place without going to a traditional classroom. I mean, if you're that person who just wants to get the discussion board done so that you can move on to the next discussion board question, so that you can move on to the next, reading assignment, and a lot of people, maybe it's not bad, again, because, a lot of us have to keep our certificates going and things, but if you come into it with an attitude, that online learning, is kind of a joke, it takes less time, you're not gonna do as well as you possibly could, for sure. So it's kind of a belief, and it's true. And I'll tell you, obviously I've been in regular classrooms. I've seen students do really well. I've seen students fail. I've seen faculty members do great. I've seen faculty members fail. And it's the exact same thing with online learning. So you can have, and maybe the population may be skewed, but again, it's up to you. It's up to you and your immediate surroundings. You know, how are you taking it, the people around you? All right, so be able to communicate through writing. If you need help, get it. And I said this earlier, be that second or third person to post a response in the discussion board and cite those responses. What does that mean? Okay, I know you guys, we talked about citations, and you know in your professional paper, obviously you're going to cite or you're plagiarizing. It's the same thing in a discussion board that you're going to do on your regular papers. And maybe you pain in the neck, but you're actually practicing the skills so that when you do your real papers, you'll be pretty good at it. All right, music, if it's intense reading, I go to the gym to read. Yeah, that's a big one too. I mean, think about the tactile, you know, with the movement and your reading, or listening to podcasts, or even watching your videos while you're on the treadmill. That's a way of the new world again. And I guess that's multitasking, but kind of two different skill sets. That's really with my research. Once you start multitasking and you're looking at, you know, taxing the, you know, whatever part of your brain, you know, works for this, and once you start using the same part of the brain for multiple tasks, performance decreases quickly. And it's funny, All right, so Christina, I will even read in my car if my husband's driving. I read last week while we were driving to the store. That's good. Ocean waves, rainforest. Reading in the car makes me sick. Yeah, me too, Emily. Nicole has trouble focusing for long periods of time, so usually study while listening to classical music. Pandora has a fur in the fiction that I absolutely love. Thank you, that's great. And Nicole, when I work with students, you know, that have hard times concentrating for long periods of time, you know that it's probably been, you know, told to you since you were 7 years old, you know, break it up and vary your activities. You know, go to your different senses, you know, for the assignments. You know, obviously sometimes you do get stuck reading 62 pages and there's nothing else. But, you know, try to do a little bit of reading, a little bit of watching, a little bit of writing, a little bit of listening, and then back to your reading, you know, breaking it up, keeps us fresh. Because, you know, again, the brain studies show that, you know, your brain actually does become tired, just like a muscle, in terms of, you know, you're walking on that treadmill and your quad's getting sore, you're using it too much. And that's what happens with all the little different parts of our brains. When you use one part of it, they do get fatigued. Okay, what do we got? A lot of times I'll do the reading, go for a run, and do your assignments. That's a great one, Jonathan. I totally agree with exercise. And break up your work with exercise. Again, the best thing I can tell you is get help if you need it. You've got us.